good morning from the beautiful Circuit Paul Ricard in Provence in France. It's time for race one of the Radical Cup Europe for this weekend. We've had a superb week of action here with the whole Creventic paddock, and it's time for our first proper race of the weekend with these amazing little machines, the Radical SR3s and indeed SR10s as well. Beautiful weather here in the south of France, 21.5 degrees Celsius in the air, and not as much of a strong breeze that we saw yesterday, so pretty much perfect conditions to go racing in. My name is Peter Mackay here in the Global Broadcast Centre just across from the start-finish line, and joining me in the commentary today for this Radical Cup Europe race and the 12 hours of Paul Ricard a little bit later on is Simon Hill. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Peter, and as you say, what a wonderful day we've got here. Beautiful weather, fantastic race cars. Look at that scenery. I mean, you couldn't really ask for a better place to watch some motorsport and be part of it. I know how much the drivers are enjoying the circuit here. It is a unique challenge in the sense that you've got this wonderful mixture of some very challenging, very technical corners and nice wide open straights. So it really does lend itself to good racing. You know, we like a chicane and a hairpin to be able to outbrake each other in. That's kind of what these drivers will be doing in competition, and it's just such an iconic view as well. There's certain circuits that this wonderful tricolor of red, white, and blue curbing that they have, or tarmac on the exit of the corners you can see there, is like no other. So you can instantly know that you're at Paul Ricard from that and the view of the mountains and the history and heritage. It's just a lovely place to be on a Saturday morning, isn't it?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. A full day of action, of course, with the Radical Cup Europe race just about to kick off, but also the Michelin 12 hours of Paul Ricard, the full Creventic paddock all together. The cars are making their way to their grid position. On pole position is the number 3 of Marcus Littlewood, and we've got Carla Velti down on the grid to get a chat with the drivers as they prepare for the off, and always fun to get a word from them. So let's see if we can check in then with Carla. Carla, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be down here, let me tell you. It was so hot yesterday when these guys here in the Radicals were doing their qualifying. Now we still have the morning temperatures, we still have the morning breeze, and the Radical cars get to drive in exactly that situation. Marcus Littlewood, I'm gonna scooch down here to you. Hi, Marcus. How are you? I didn't catch you yesterday after you got out of your car. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel good. Relieved after yesterday. It was a really good qualifying. Looking forward to the race today. It's pretty warm, so it's going to be about managing the tyres over the long distance of the race and see what happens.
You were very consistent yesterday in the qualifying, and you did give us a really good show with the guy that is sitting next to you on the right on P2. What makes you so consistent? You were very consistently fast. What's your secret, without telling us too many secrets?
Just lots of practice on the simulator, and yeah, that seems to make the difference.
Sounds really good. Is there anything particularly that you're going to look for now when you go into turn 1? Because we know turn 1 at Paul Ricard, there is a lot of space, but it is very tricky. So what's your focus right now?
Obviously, just a long run to turn 1. We're obviously got to watch the lights and just try and get the best run possible.
Fantastic. Good luck and enjoy yourself out there. I will make sure to also speak to P2, because that man, he was really hunting P1 yesterday. He didn't quite make it, but Luke Kendall is sitting here getting some last words in just ahead of the race start, and I'm going to do the same thing with him as well. Luke, how are you feeling today?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Pretty good.
So you did give us a really good hunt yesterday in qualifying, trying to get that P1. What are you going to do today to end this race on P1?
Well, I think we'll try to build as much of a gap as we can before pit stop window, because for pit stops we have the time penalties. So I think we'll just try to maximize the results as much as we can, given the time penalties that we have. But
Fantastic. I wish you good luck with that. I'm going to make my way a little bit back to some of the other cars in the grid as well, as the 3-minute sign goes up, which means in 3 minutes the cars will leave their positions here on the grid. But nonetheless, I would like to go a little bit back to that one other category that is within the Radicals, which is the SR10, if I'm not mistaken. We unfortunately only have one. Nonetheless, I want to have a little chat with him, if I can, because we're almost starting this whole thing here. I just wanted to understand a little bit better what it is like to drive a different car than the others as the only one. So let me see if I can get one last word. Can I have one last word? You've got the most powerful car here on the grid. How excited are you to battle all of these other ones down there?
I give it a try on Texas cars.
Fantastic. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun. Good luck out there. There you go. He's very excited to do exactly what he's supposed to do, which is racing. I will get out of the way right now. I will hand over to my colleague Peter Snowden in the pit lane. And you guys, make sure you watch this, because this is cool racing.
Thank you, Carla. It is cool racing indeed. The engines are on. Thank you to the drivers as well for having a chat with us just before we're ready to go. The grid is being cleared for this one. 50 minutes on the clock. So let's run through the grid. Marcus Littlewood will start on pole position alongside Luke Kendall. As Carla mentioned, they both had a fantastic battle in qualifying yesterday, and surely that's going to spill over into the race. Erland Olsen will start from third alongside Lohan Stevens in the SR3 RJ Motorsport machine. Then on row 3, it's Jack Yang for Valor Racing alongside Sebastian Shaw. That team have been fighting with engine issues for the Step Motorsport crew. Hopefully they've got that sorted for the race today. On the 4th row of the grid, in 7th, it will be Andrew Lowe in the Fangio class for those of a certain level of life experience. Amir Faizullin will start from 8th. Row 5 in the RSR machine will be John McLeod alongside Brian Huang. On row 6, starting 11th, is Jahid Fazil Karim alongside Pascal Bachmann, both running in the Fangio class. Row 7 sees Jess Franston and Ross Board. Difficult qualifying yesterday for Ross Board. Hopefully we'll be able to move forward. And then on the 8th row of the grid is Peter Gustafsson in the SR10, the turbocharged machine, alongside Eddie Van Dam from Radical Netherlands. The cars lined up behind the Audi e-tron pace car, an electric pace car here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Time to get the tyres up to temperature and pressure, ready for the start. Rolling start here behind the pace car. And I think we're going to see a cracking battle from those top two at the front of the field, Simon. They were nearly inseparable in qualifying yesterday. It just went the way of Marcus Littlewood, but they were very, very evenly matched.
Yeah, certainly in the first session, I think Marcus had a little bit more of an advantage, but the second session, if you remember, we were, or certainly for those of you that were watching, you'll have remembered that Luke was very close to potentially challenging for pole. I think he had a bit of traffic at the end of the lap, which kind of held him up a bit. Otherwise, he may well have just sneaked pole position. I think he just timed it right. Literally crossed the line with a few seconds to go to get that final lap in. And what we were speculating during qualifying was how much difference the fuel burn made. In other words, obviously they start the session with enough fuel to do the 2 qualifying sessions, the 2 back-to-back sessions. It's literally finish one and go straight into the second one. So there isn't the opportunity to refuel. And as we know, for safety reasons, refueling in the pit lane is very rarely permitted anyway. So they would have naturally got quicker and quicker on from that perspective. And a lot of the drivers, in fact, most of the drivers opted to stay with one set of tyres for the 2 sessions. You know, the tyres were at the right temperatures. We saw, I think it was Marcus Littlewood's team just bleeding the pressures off at the end of the first session. So they would have just taken some of the pressure out just to get it back to what would have been effectively a starting pressure, so that he would have been consistent. And he was immediately on the pace. And as you quite rightly said, Pete, it was a thrilling battle between those two and between lots of other drivers throughout the grid. It was very, very up and down. Lots of people that were sitting there looking pretty good for maybe a second or a third suddenly were overtaken, and vice versa. So Really looking forward to seeing how this one pans out.
Wonderful little machines, these Radical SR3 XXRs, 232 horsepower. The engine actually starts off life in a Suzuki Hayabusa high-performance motorcycle. Then the team at Radical completely take it apart and develop it into a race car engine. 620 kilos. That is what makes a Radical such a thrill to drive. Incredibly light. And a lot of downforce as well. The rear of the car is big diffuser and big rear wing as well to make that car stick to the ground. And round here at Paul Ricard, you've got a lot of very fast corners, where there's a lot of corners through here where you're absolutely flat to the boards in one of these Radicals. Big commitment required to get the lap time out of them. And Marcus Littlewood will lead away the field to the green flag. They're just coming up into the last couple of corners of the formation lap, Virage de la Tour and Virage du Pont, and then it will be eyes to the lights on the start-finish line, which is just right across from our position here in the amazing pit building here at Circuit Paul Ricard. It's a beautiful facility. If you've never been, pop it on the calendar, whether you're a competitor or a fan. It's a really impressive facility. We've been well looked after all week so far. The car's now lining up in a 2x2 formation, ready for the rolling start, much like you would see in the World Endurance Championship or in IMSA, or indeed in the Michelin 24-Hour Series. Marcus Littlewood will pace the field, waiting for those lights to go out on the gantry. And we're racing in the Radical Cup Europe for the first time here at Paul Ricard in 2026. They run down towards turn one really quick through there, through Very. And then number 3, the pole sitter, Marcus Littlewood, trying to hold off a charge there from the 54 machine of Luke Kendall. They go through turn one absolutely flat out of the front of the field. The others towards the back trying to keep things neat and tidy. But we've got a spinner. It's Ross Board. Ross Board has spun off the road at turn 2. But luckily not finding the barrier. Will be able to carry on hopefully, but that's not a good start to the race for him. But looks like the number 3 of Marcus Littlewood has got away cleanly and leads the race.
Yeah, it was very neck and neck. I was looking outside of our commentary box window as they charged down towards turn 1, and it did look like Luke Kendall may have actually had a slightly better start, but was on the outside obviously. So of course Marcus was always going to be braking very late to maintain that position, and did so with great skill. So look at the gap now, just edging away a little bit. In fact, you can see that immediately behind that, the battle is already starting to unfold. The 911 car looking to maybe make some time up there. And that's Erlen Johan Olsen in the red and white machine, just on the back of the yellow car of Lowen Stevens.
Yeah, already a breakaway from Marcus Littlewood as they come through the North Chicane on the Mistral Straight and down towards Signé. One of the most fearsome corners of the circuit. Big commitment through there, and leaning on the aerodynamic performance of these Radicals. You got to watch on the exit of Signé though. There's the floppies that we've talked about throughout the race week so far. If you hit one of those, you'll know about it. So they're there to stop the drivers running wide and taking an advantage into the final sector of the circuit now. And Littlewood really getting his head down, trying to break a gap early on. But it's a long race, 50 minutes is a long way around here. Physical track, and of course these high downforce cars, you'll know about it at the end of the race. You have a sore neck, I would think, by the end of this one.
Absolutely. A lot of these drivers making sure that they're in really good shape to ensure that they can deal with those stresses, physical stresses, and obviously the focus and concentration you need to do a race of that sort of length is intense. But this battle's looking very interesting, isn't it? Lowen Stevens under more pressure from Erlen Olsen. The 911 car looking like he got a really good run out the final corner. Is he going to shape up to have a little look into turn 1? Watch for that white and red car to dive down the inside. Here he comes. Is he going to make it stick? Not quite late enough to do that, and a nice bit of defensive driving, but he runs wide from the 64 car of Stevens, and that has allowed Olsen to get around the outside, and I think he may have the line into... Oh, he's very late on the brakes. My goodness me, that was brave.
What a move there from the 64 of Lowen Stevens. Goes hard on the brakes. It goes round the outside there, going into Virage du Pont, and nicked the position back again. I don't think the number 911 from the Radical Norway team of Erlen Johan Olsen expected that one, but brilliant stuff. And clearly Lowen Stevens not wanting to fall off the scent of the leaders, who are making a bit of a breakaway though. Marcus Littlewood in the lead ahead of the 54 car of Luke Kendall. Then there's a bit of a gap back to the third place car of Lohan Stevens in the bright highlighter yellow machine with the number 911 with a almost slightly Porsche-esque colour scheme, the black, red and grey machine there of the Norwegian Erlend Juan Olsen.
Yeah, not far behind that is Sebastian Schau, who's we heard from him yesterday saying that they had some problems with misfire with the engine. It was running a little bit down on power. It certainly looks like it's running pretty well today. Let's have a look at how the lap times are. So last time around, the race leader Littlewood at 2:12.690. He's already setting purple sectors in the first two sectors of this lap. Luke Kendall 2:13.822, so just over a second a lap quicker from Littlewood to Kendall on that first run.
These cars, they've got about half the power of a GT3 car and about half the weight, and the lap time is really not that different. Once we get into the thick of things, we saw some great lap times in qualifying yesterday, 2:05s in some cases, and yeah, they would have been fairly competitive in the GT3 field in qualifying too. So it shows you just there's nothing like a lightweight machine. But there is a breakaway at the front of the field. 2:09.4 for Marcus Littlewood, then 2:09.9 for Luke Kendall. So the gap at the front of the field is 1.6 seconds, but there's a big gap back. You've got to go a further 3.7 seconds back from Lohan Stevens from Luke Kendall in second. And really, Lohan Stevens' eyes aren't looking forward right now. They're looking back because he is under big pressure from the Norwegian Erlend Juan Olsen.
And Schau behind them in the 38 car is putting more pressure on Olsen. Where Olsen has been trying to get on to the back and have a look at Stevens, it cost him a little bit of time, and it's allowed Sebastian Schau to get right into the mix and properly put pressure on the 911 car. So clearly that car's working very well, the 38 car of Schau. So it's going to be very interesting to see once we get into the latter stage of the race who's getting the most out of the performance of the tyres as well. Some of the drivers, as we heard yesterday, in fact, a lot of the drivers just used the one set of tyres across the two qualifying sessions, so they would have done half an hour of hard driving on those tyres. So likely that most of the guys would have gone for a new set for this race to ensure they have the best opportunity. I heard a little rumour when I was wandering down in the paddock earlier that Littlewood had gone for two tyres on the outside of the car. So just two, and then we'll do potentially the same for the second race.
So he would have put new ones on the left.
On the left-hand side.
Yeah, exactly. Very clever.
Which is an interesting tactic, and I can understand why you would have done that. And it seems to be working for him at the moment.
Definitely working for him. Yeah, in the first sector alone, took 0.3 of a second out of Luke Kendall. Kendall responded slightly by 0.005 of a second in sector 2, but Littlewood actually putting some distance in on this lap. Is wide there, a little bit further down the field. Going through, of course, this is one of the circuits around the world where it's got a lot of runoff in most places, but one or two parts around the circuit where you wouldn't want to get it wrong, particularly coming onto the Mistral, the wall there pretty close.
Yeah, it's turn 7, isn't it, that leads on to the cold corner that leads on to the Mistral, which we saw a couple of big moments yesterday in all of the races. Here's a replay of the start, Pete.
Marcus Littlewood got a really good getaway from the rolling start, but was under pressure for the 54. Luke Kendall got an even better getaway, you'd have to say, but on the brakes into, well, it will be an ever so slight just feather of the brake into turn 1. It's a quick entry into turn 1, and then it's who is the bravest. It all went a bit wrong for Ross Board though, who just got it up over the curb and lost it. And yeah,
it looked like he maybe got pinched a little bit, or one of the other cars just came down on him, and as he kind of got over the curb, it just unsettled the car, and around she went. But yeah, unfortunately, there he is. Yeah, I don't think there was contact, and couldn't really quite see that.
Just kind of got squeezed up onto the curb, and you'd want it. Some of the curbs here at Paul Ricard, you can really monster them, but others they can really unsettle the car quite badly, and that was an example of that for Ross Board. But this circuit, I mean, you think of a circuit to really open up one of these Radical SR3s and really lean into one of its best attributes, which is the aerodynamic performance. The other circuits where you're more on and off the power, but here you can really lean into it as well. And what a proving ground as well for a young driver. You look at a driver like Luke Kendall, big ambitions, getting used to downforce and being able to trust downforce is something that doesn't happen straight away.
Yeah, I think it's always been, since Radical have been around for more than I think coming up 30 years now, if I'm right in thinking, and they've just established themselves as a really obvious path to bigger and better things. You know, I think of some of the drivers like that have done wonderful things. Most recently, the driver that springs to mind is Chris Lulham, who obviously was a champion in the British Championship, and now, of course, doing spectacular things in the world of GT racing alongside a certain M. Verstappen in certain cases.
Yeah, heard of him. Yeah. Marcus,
familiar with his work?
Yes, very good work. Yeah, Marcus Littlewood is on a charge. 209.1 last time by. He took 0.6 of a second out of Luke Kendall, and he's got the head down here in the black and orange RSR team machine. Over the line he goes and is pulling out the gap big time. In fact, he's taken a second out of Kendall there. The gap is up to 3.1 seconds, 41 minutes to go. So within not even 10 minutes of the race, he's opened up a gap of over 3 seconds. But of course, there is the potential, if there is an incident on track, the safety car can be called, and at that point, everything all bunches back up together again. So got to manage it as a long race. You've got to manage the tyre as well, to make sure that if there is a late safety car, you've got the rubber to be able to stave off a fight. Still, Lohan Stevenson, Erlen Juan Olsen trying to sort out third position. Stevens in the yellow and black machine, the white, grey, red and black, almost, yeah, the Porsche Works colours of the 919 days. I would say that would be the best way I would describe it. The Radical Norway entered machine.
And it is interesting. I mean, this weekend there's races all over the world for Radicals. They're racing in places like South Korea, amongst others, this weekend. And one of the big news for them as a series is obviously each year they have a World Finals event. And it's just been announced that the World Finals will be at the final round of the same weekend as the final round of this championship, the Radical Euro Cup, in Barcelona. So Circuit de Catalunya in September. You'll see all of the 10 championships all converging into one for one 30-minute winner-takes-all race that will run in addition to the 2 Radical Euro Cup races. So that's going to be fascinating. That's just gone live in terms of getting the word out to the various different championships, and it'll be spectacular, and hopefully we'll get a chance to watch the absolute best of the best globally.
I can't wait for that. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, there's every territory around the world where there's racing, usually you'll find Radicals. It's they have a long heritage. Of course, Radical themselves raced at Le Mans as well. They had their own LMP2 car as well. Robin Liddell drove it.
He did
in the mid-2000s. Yeah. With
that still going.
Bloody whiskey on the side.
It was bloody whiskey, yeah, I remember that, yeah. Yeah, gotta love a whiskey sponsor. I mean, there's been a few cracking ones over the years, haven't
Quite right, yeah. Right.
Johnny Walker, of course, the link with Johnny Walker and racing generally is
Rob Walker.
Rob Walker. Used to run, obviously, with the beautiful dark blue and white livery that was so iconic. Sterling Moss famously won the first race for Lotus in 1960 at Monaco in a Rob Walker entered car, and then again the following year. And latterly we saw people like Joe Siffert win a Grand Prix in a Rob Walker car, and Graham Hill came back after his horrible accident in '69 and in 1970 racing for Rob Walker. So anyway, enough about Rob Walker, let's talk about Radicals.
Just there seemed to be a little puff of smoke coming from the number 6. Yeah, Brian Huang's number 6 machine. Looks like it might be tyre rub on the rear right of that black and red SR3. Just seems like the tyre's rubbing against the bodywork slightly. Doesn't seem to be holding Brian up too much. Last time by, yeah, he lost a little bit of time to those around him, but not massively so. But yeah, that might be starting to disturb him if that keeps going.
Yeah, it could be, and that's the battle there with Huang 8th at the moment. Does look like he is losing a little bit of time though. He's now under a bit of pressure from Jack Yang.
I wonder if the pressure down the inside. Yeah, I wonder if the tyre pressure is maybe starting to drop. Great move from Jack Yang going into the north chicane, but by making that move, just lost a little bit of momentum. Then coming back onto the Mistral straight. Can you imagine there with no chicane?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That was a proper corner. Well, it's still a proper corner now, but imagine when you come in there at 3 million miles an hour, you probably felt like you do at the end of the straight. We were talking yesterday about the iconic days of the mid-80s with turbocharged cars, F1 cars, and full quali mode of sort of upwards of 1,200 or more brake horsepower. Can you just imagine that? And the aerodynamics in those days, of course, compared to now, were minimal. So the Keke Rosbergs and Ayrton Sennas
Early
and
days of ground effect as well, though.
Before that, yeah. I mean, the ground effect cars in 80 would have raced here in 1980 French Grand Prix, which was.
Imagine that going to Signy after having gone all the way down the Mistral, and you're going, oh, come on, be brave, be brave. Yeah.
Because of course in that period it was the French Grand Prix was alternating with Dijon mainly in that sort of era. So 79 and 81 would have been at Dijon, 80 when Ground Effects was really in its full force, and 78 of course with the Lotus.
So leader in the Fangio class for those of a certain level of life experience, Amir Faizullin is in 6th place overall. Great run from Amir in the North Motorsport car, but he has real company from John McLeod, who ran earlier in that dark green machine, ran on earlier, excuse me. He last time by was 0.3 of a second quicker than Amir, so John McLeod really putting the heat on that for the lead in the Fangio category. 3.5 seconds though is the gap at the front of the field. And Luke Kendall is going quicker than anybody else in Sector 1, so he's trying his best to try and reel in the gap to Marcus Littlewood. But those initial few laps, Simon, so important for Littlewood. It's like the first tackle in a rugby game. Those first few laps, you can really get yourself in control of the race.
Yeah, and he's just chipped away at it. He's been super consistent. I was watching the last couple of laps that Marcus did were all within a few hundredths of his best. So, and obviously that's what you need to be doing. Is even though, as you quite rightly pointed out, Luke has set a purple Sector 1, it's only a 10th quicker than the Marcus Littlewood. So whilst it's very good and it's impressive, and of course that's what you're going to do, unless Marcus was losing big chunks of time if he had an issue, or as you said, his tyres maybe have gone away, then it's not significant enough. It's going to require a safety car or something like that, or a mistake, or maybe even as we get later in the race, because it is a long race, there might be some other cars towards the back of the pack that end up, you know, maybe causing a bit of an issue in terms of being lapped. So we'll have to wait and see how that unfolds, because we're still not even at halfway.
No, there's a long way to go. Although we saw in qualifying yesterday that as the fuel load burned away, of course, because the car itself is so light, as the fuel burns off, it's a larger percentage of the weight of the car than, say, a GT3 car burning off fuel. So the car seemed to the times got quicker and quicker, and the tyre really holding in well and giving a lot of performance. In fact, Luke Kendall's just set the fastest lap of the race, 2:08.8, 0.3 quicker than Littlewood's lap on the previous one. So the gap is now down to 3.2. So, and again, Kendall going quicker. So the American, he's really got his head down here. He's pushing as hard as he possibly can, and Littlewood, you know, I'm sure he'll be watching his pit board. He'll want to keep it under control, but it's not because Littlewood, as you rightly said, Simon, it's not because he's dropping pace. It's Kendall's really turning up the wick here.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. The psychology of that, of course, from Littlewood's perspective, is that he just needs to keep doing what he's doing, and he won't have any problems, you know, other than obviously if his tyres go away or a mechanical issue or something like that. But from a driving perspective, if he just keeps rattling in the laps the way he is, he was only just over 0.3 of a second slower than Kendall. So whilst, you know, Kendall has taken a bit of a chip away from it, he's still 3.2 seconds up the road. And let's be honest, when you watch, as a driver, when you're chasing, you might see that you take a little bit of time out of them on the brakes, because obviously, by definition, they brake before you, you brake a little bit later after them, so it feels like you're taking chunks of time out. But then, of course, conversely, they're on the power earlier than you, so they immediately gap that back up, or get that gap back up again. I'll get the words out in a minute. So, yeah, from the perspective of what Kendall needs to do, again, he sets another purple Sector 1, but at the same time, Littlewood sets his personal best, which is only a 1/10 of a second slower than Luke Kendall. So again, it's Kendall's just chipping away, but it looks like Littlewood is still in a nice groove, a nice rhythm, and should be okay in terms of pace to stay where he needs to be.
They're both on it. Marcus Littlewood then sets the fastest lap of the race at 2:08.7, 2:08.9 for Kendall. So the gap goes back again as well. So isn't that, there's a little bit of a response there from Littlewood at the front of the field. Lowen Stevens still hanging on to 3rd position in the 64 car. Last time by, he was actually dropped a bit of time to Erland Juan Olsen, who set his best lap of the race, a 2:10 flat. So the two guys at the front, they're in their own Premier League right now. There's a big gap back, 10 seconds the gap already from Kendall in second to Stevens in third. So the top two, they really are on their own. Championship standings wise, Marcus Littlewood, your race leader, he is the championship leader right now, 122 points, 14 ahead of Sebastian Scholl, who is sitting in fifth right now. So if Marcus Littlewood were able to maintain this position, he would gain a nice lead in the championship. Erland Juan Olsen sits in third at the moment. Paul Denning in fourth, the manager of Crescent Racing, a very successful motorcycle racing operation over the years. He's not here this weekend, so he will drop away from that fourth position that he holds in the championship at the moment.
Yeah, interesting that at the beginning of the race, that battle for third was really like nose to tail. The three cars all seemed to be kind of tripping over each other. And as you can see, that's just spread out a little bit. Certainly Show has dropped away a little bit. So just hoping for their sake that's not an issue with the engine that they had. Yes, we've just seen on our screen that car 33 has had a spin and continued. So that's Eddie Van Dam in the Radical Netherlands car. But he's continued, so that's okay. No major dramas there. And at the front, Littlewood now, the gap 3.4 seconds last time round. Another really strong first sector from Luke Kendall in second place, with Lowen Stevens now just over 10 seconds behind. And as we heard, as Peter mentioned, Erland Olsen sitting there just behind and taking a little bit more time out of him. So that battle, I think, is possibly going to reignite. It looks like those two are going to maybe close back up to one another. After Erland Olsen looked odds on to maybe have a proper go, and at one point looked like he was passed until Lowen Stevens pulled off that mega move around the outside into the first chicane. That was a pretty impressive move into Esteverrier.
It was, yeah, it was move of the day so far, I would say, on that switchback. Really impressive stuff, and is being able to hold off Olsen for now as we hit the 20-minute mark, 30 minutes to go, and the pace is still red hot at the front of the field. A 2:08.8 last time by for Kendall in second position, taking just under 0.2 of a second out of Marcus Littlewood on that one. He's taken another 0.2 of a second in sector one alone. So Littlewood is he's being made to really work hard for this one, although they're actually, you know, they're not wheel to wheel on track. They're just taking little chunks back and forth from each other on the timing screen. Beautiful place to go racing here at Circuit Paul Ricard, and a beautiful place to drive a Radical and really lean on that aerodynamics. But sometimes even the Radical aerodynamics can't get you out of a little bit of a spin, and it was just a small half spin at the final corner at Virage du Pont for one of the Radical Netherlands cars, unfortunately, but no harm, no foul.
I think that was Eddie Van Dam having that spin that we mentioned earlier. So yeah, could have been a lot worse. Nobody immediately around. That was the main thing. But that battle there, as we can see, the third place battle between Stevens, Olsen and Schaud just a little bit further back. Just looking at the respective lap times, within about 1/10 or 2 of each other. So a bit like the battle for first and second, the lap times aren't significantly different between each other, those few cars. So it's a bit of a stalemate at the moment, but likely to change as the race unfolds.
So in the Fangio category, Amir Faizullin still leading the way, but only by half a second from John McLeod in the RSR number 14 entry. Really tight on the lap times. A 2:12.005 for Faizullin, and then a 2:12.076 for McLeod. So 72 thousandths of a second apart on the previous lap. Quite amazing how tight that is. But in third position, the 64 of Lowen Stevens now maybe just starting to put a little bit of breathing space between himself and the Norwegian Erland Juan Olsen.
Yeah, 0.4 quicker Stevens was than Olsen on that last lap, so that's just enough just to edge away a bit to the point where it just means that the driver behind is having to potentially overdrive a little bit to try and find the time. You know, it's very easy to be sucked into that kind of driving style when you just feel like you're just got to try a little bit harder, and unfortunately sometimes it can result in you just trying so hard that you outbrake yourself a little bit, or a bit scrappy, especially into some of these very technical corners here. I've got to say a big shout out to our drone operators as well. when we were at the last round at Spa, the drone operators were the ones that had been previously working at the Winter Olympics. So they'd been the ones that were chasing the skiers down the hill and the bobsleighs and things like that. So fantastic stuff.
A move for 6th place and the lead in the Fangio category. John McLeod has gone by ahead of Amir Faizulan. Faizulan dropping back in the number 15 car for North Motorsport. So change in the Fangio category at the moment. That class led by Paul Denning, but as we mentioned, not here this weekend. John McLeod immediately behind in the 2nd position in that championship. So for John, that will be very, very useful points for the championship. Pit stop then for the number 77 of Jahid Fazal Karim.
So just having done the tyre pressures, which is what we were watching happening to Marcus Littlewood's car in qualifying, or the end of qualifying yesterday. Very important drink. Get some drink, get some fluids down here. It's a pretty warm day today, so these drivers, as you said, it's a longish race and quite a physical circuit, so understandably trying to take every advantage of getting a little bit of water and using the Hydro Race bottle. That's Dan from Hydro Race who provides those, does a fabulous job of sorting those out.
Let's catch up with Peter Snowden then, who's down there in the pit lane.
Yeah, well, very, very quickly, that first pit stop for the number 77 car there. No driver change, as Simon just said, just simply fluids and tyre pressures, and very, very slick and out and done. In fact, ready so early that they were counting down the watch and waiting in wait. There's a minimum pit stops time. Bit of a flurry of activity now, but we are going to see a driver change in the pit next to me. I'm trying to find out which car that's going to be in a moment. We've got one of our lady drivers, Valerie, is just about to get into that. She's just doing a sit-up now, ready to get in, so we'll keep an eye on that one. We've got 4 more behind us in the pit lane, and I will try and keep you guys updated on these various pit stops.
Thank you, Snowy. Yeah, that's Valerie Bachmann alongside Pascal Bachmann in the number 17 RJ Motorsport taking a pit stop. They had a very late delivery of a spare engine yesterday morning to get that in the car. They got it out for qualifying, and the car running well here in the race as well. A mandatory pit time that all the teams have to serve just gives everyone a chance. If they do it, if there is a driver change to be done, it can be done in the time, but you don't have to have a second driver if you don't wish to. Marcus Littlewood has gone a lot longer than Luke Kendall. Luke Kendall in the pit lane at the moment, so we should see Littlewood coming in fairly soon, I would imagine. So yes, in fact, he's coming around towards the end of the lap now through Cour de Galaban, absolutely flat stick through there, and again he is going into the transfer lane at the moment, and into the pits he comes. I mean, what an opening stint, Simon, for Marcus Littlewood. Yeah, that was the way to do it, wasn't it? He was super consistent. Even on that in lap, he set his personal best through sector 1, so clearly pushing to the end. And as all good drivers in endurance racing will do, you have to maximise your in and your out laps as well as the full racing laps, and that's what clearly Marcus is doing and applying that very well. It really is an impressive young driver, as we may have mentioned before, the current British champion, and it's always good to see these young drivers expanding their experience into racing in different arenas. He's also a Motorsport UK Academy driver, and started by winning the Radical Cup SR1 class in 2024, then into the SR3s and dominated that in 2025. He raced here in the SR1 class back in 2024 and won that as well. So clearly likes the circuit, goes very well. And this young man, Luke Kendall, I think we heard from him yesterday saying that it's his first time here and he's really enjoying the challenge. Yeah, what an experience for him. And I would think both of them will have their eyes forward on the World Finals in Barcelona as well, to see how they compare with the Radical racers from around the globe. In fact, Luke Kendall started in the Radicals last year, and incredibly did the World Finals in Virginia last year and finished 5th in the World Finals in his first year. So it shows you the potential that he was showing even at that early stage. So pretty impressive stuff from Luke. I can imagine a Radical SR3 around VIR. Oh, perfection. Perfection. There's a certain driver racing the 24H series later today. That's quite
close to my heart, and that's one of the circuits that he yes, absolutely, yeah, Ollie Bryan, and that's one of the circuits that he's like, that's a track I need to race on. And Ryan Diel will have raced on that circuit, in fact, for sure, with his experience in America. Ryan, of course, a former Daytona outright winner in the Daytona 24 Hours and class winner in the Le Mans 24 Hours. So wonderful to see that sort of quality of drivers that are with us here today. So
driver change in the number 17 RJ Motorsport machine. Pascal Bachmann jumping out, Valerie Bachmann jumping in.
It would be quite cool if one of them, at some point in their racing career, one of them shared with a driver called Turner, and be a Bachmann Turner and then overdrive.
Overdrive, yeah, there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there was no need for that, was there? I like the little Senna tribute on the back there of the helmet. That's very cool, isn't it? You see that tribute to the great man. We like that a lot. Whose helmet was we were talking about? Oh, it was Benjamin Pack's crash helmet that when he got out. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Very cool. We'll try and get a look at that. We'll get Carla to have a look at Benjamin Pack's helmet on the grid block. White with kind of sparkly, and of course it's got BP from his initials. Yeah, very cool.
As you pointed out, you've got to be fast if you've got a helmet like that. You can't have a flash helmet and not be able. It's not all show and no go. It's got to be able to deliver. You know, come up with the goods, and he very much does, doesn't he? So that pit stop's just finished now. So out goes Valerie.
You can almost imagine the helmet Peter going, "Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you good? Because you're going to have to be."
Well, we will find out exactly how the other half of the Bachmann husband and wife team got on. He's just got out of the car and he's going to have a chat with our friend Peter Snowden.
Destination with the belts.
Yeah, well, what can you do, you know? We do our best, and that's it. And we have two seats, actually. I have my inset, and when Valerie gets in, because we are so different in sizes, she has an inset that goes into mine. And in that case, one of the belts, lap belts, went under that inset. That's it.
We wondered what happened because you saw her jump up and out of the seat again. That explains it.
Sorry, say again?
We wondered why she jumped out of the seat again. Now we know.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
But apart from that, everything okay?
Yeah, everything okay. For once, I had a pretty decent start, so that was an improvement. I was pretty much alone then afterwards. We had a bit of action with Jahid, my teammate, in the double white. And I don't know what happened to him, actually. He disappeared after that. But overall, good fun, you know. That's why we're here.
Pascal, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the race. I'll let you go and watch Valerie.
Superb stuff. Pascal Bachmann. He doesn't even look out of breath. He doesn't look tired. He's clearly got the stamina for it. 19 minutes to go then. Once the timing all gets itself figured out, we'll confirm where things are.
So the length of the stop for the quicker drivers, I'll rephrase that, for the drivers that will have had a strong result in the previous round, that's a slightly longer stop. Also for the silver graded drivers, which is in most cases the younger drivers, they will have also had a bit of an extension to that. That means it's a bit more challenging for the Marcus Littlewoods and Luke Kendalls in that respect. Some of certainly the Fangio class driver that you mentioned earlier, they're all drivers over 50, so they are all automatically bronze rated drivers on that basis. So even though some of them are very, very quick, that's still usually the sort of cut-off point. As a gentleman that would classify for the Fangio class, I would like to think I could still enjoy myself out there.
I think we need to make that happen.
Maybe I'll drop enough hints with the lovely people at Radical.
I think someone else who might be wanting to skip the queue in front of you is Peter Snowden, who has an update for us from the pits.
Yeah, thank you, boys. We just interviewed the Pascal Bachmann, which was a great little interview, and then I get a little tap on the shoulder, and it's none other than the man that's running the car, somebody familiar to quite a few of us, Tommy Erdos.
I think I just about heard my name there, but great to be here.
We were being polite.
Thank you very much. Awesome to be here. Oh, what a beautiful weather to be racing in Paul Ricard. So yeah, great to see you and be part of the European Radical Cup. That's fantastic to be here.
So what finds you, former legend of a GT driver and Le Mans and all sorts of things, what finds you running a Radical, Tommy?
Well, I mean, I think the running of the Radical, I have to give credit to RJ Motorsport and Josh doing a fantastic job here with all the cars they're running. I think Lowen is running in third position at the moment. So, yeah, a great bunch of people to work with. And I'm actually looking after a couple of cars, Pascal and Valerie Bachmann and Brian Huang as well. We're doing very well.
And have you driven one?
Not recently. I have driven a Radical, but before, but not for a while.
You don't do coaching, you just do the sort of the pit side stuff?
No, it's my element is driver coaching, and mainly driver coaching, and then obviously running the cars in the pit lane, and yeah, just helping all around, you know, tea maker, coffee maker, that kind of thing.
Whatever role you undertake, you always look happy and smiley, Tommy.
Well, I mean, how can you not be happy? You have Paul Ricard, it's beautiful and sunny, and you know, great people to work with, so I'm happy.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Tommy.
Well done, Snowy. Tommy Erdos, that's someone I didn't expect to see. Winner at Le Mans in the LMP2 category with the MG Lola alongside Mike Newton and Warren Hughes. It's an amazing period for MG and for Lola at that time. Tommy was the star driver at that time.
Mike Newton's still racing that car
He
as
is.
well. He's been doing the Peter Auto Series in that car. And yeah, I mean, Tommy, what an absolute gentleman. He's one of the nicest guys in motorsport. And then he's one of the examples there of nice guys do finish first, you know. And still just super enthusiastic, you know, such a lot of experience. But I remember him even years before he did his sports car, Formula First racing, single seaters is where he started off, and then into Formula Renault when that was in its early infancy, and won that championship as well. So yeah, he's just a proper bloke. I'm really lovely to see him. In fact, we've got 3 superstar coaches down there that I know of. There may be more, so forgive me if I've missed anyone. But there's Tommy. There's also Bobby Thompson, who's looking after Jack Yang, and who's of course a former British touring car driver. Just recently raced in GT World Challenge for Paradigm. So big spin. Who have we got that? I couldn't quite see who that was. It looked like one of the red and white cars. So I think that might have been.
I think that was the, ironically, 360 competition car of Andrew Lowe coming into the back part of the circuit. Oh, they're just carried a little bit too much speed coming in. The rear of the car just steps out. They're quite short wheelbase, these Radicals, so they are incredibly reactive, but they can bite you if you take a liberty. As the battle going on for third position, Jack Yang has moved forward into a podium position, but is under a lot of pressure from Erland Juan Olsen. Marcus Littlewood, he's opened the gap through that pit cycle, 15 seconds to the good now ahead of Luke Kendall, so he has got this race under control with just under 15 minutes to go, and Erland Juan Olsen ahead of the 64 of Lowen Stevens. So the pit stop cycle's not been kind to Lowen Stevens. Is going to have to pull out that Hollywood move again, but I think this time maybe Erland Juan Olsen might be ready for it.
He might be indeed, yeah. But yeah, Jack Yang really the one who's benefited most from that group in the middle there of getting himself ahead of it, and see what sort of pace he's got. Jackson, one I was just mentioning, he's been coached by Bobby Thompson, so let's see what the Bobster has given him in terms of some ideas, and see whether he can hang on to a podium position. But Littlewood, really, they maximised the opportunity of the in and the out laps were very strong, but also it looks like he's just benefited a little bit from the pit stop as well, where he's now got a 15-second lead, even bigger lead than he had before over Luke Kendall. So barring disasters, he's in really good shape. The quickest car on circuit at the moment is the SR10 Philip Svensson. So Svensson flying at the moment in the 206s. Remember, that car is of course unique in this particular event. It's the only one of the SR10s. Oh, a bit of a wobble and a snap there from Lowen Stevens there. Just lost it. Look, we talk a bit about the aero efficiency of these cars, and that looked to me like he was so close going into the right-hander there that the front just lost a little bit of grip and snapped and pushed him wide onto those red, white and blue stripes. Have a little watch again here. Watch how close Stevens gets.
And then into double Dwight, and you're spot on, Simon. Now that seems like aero wash to me, and just also carrying maybe a little bit too much speed, which must be so tempting in these cars and so easy to do. Double Dwight, I mean, a GT3 car, you're entering in there at 240 kph. Be a little bit slower entry speed in the Radical, but the mid-corner will be very similar. Lap time's really not that different to a GT3, and you think that's with 230 brake horsepower. It shows you how efficient the aero is and how lightweight makes a difference. But the SR10 being driven amazingly by Philip Svensson, 206.9 last time, by 425 horsepower, so nearly double the power and only 100 kilos more. So it's a much more serious thing, and in a straight line you can really open the tap. So I think into Senior in that car, you're having to take a big deep breath.
Yeah, brave pills to the double, I would suggest. Jack Yang under a little bit of pressure, but looks like Erlen Olsen is maybe just able to just bide his time a little bit, gets a really good run through turn 7 onto the back straight, and all the way down that long Mistral straight into the chicane. Watch to see whether Olsen has a look. If we remember back to the early part of the race when Olsen was behind Lowen Stevens, the car that's now in 5th place, in the yellow car, quite often he got a run, especially out of the final turn, and it looked like he was odds on to have a go, but didn't seem to have either the confidence or maybe the way the car was working to send it down the inside and be super late on the brakes and out braking. Just that didn't seem to be something he was comfortable doing. So watch with interest to see that maybe that's what he's got to try here. Yang, a little bit of a wobble through Senior as he brings the car back into the middle of the road. That's an interesting one. I always remember going back to we've harped on about F1 here, when Ivan Capelli came within a gnats of winning the French Grand Prix in '90. Is there side by side? Has he got it done? Yes, he has. That's a really good move. Very impressive stuff.
A little bit of an error there, I think, from Jack Yang coming into the double droite and towards Virage de Pont d'Or, and just left the door open. Jack Yang's left the door open again in 64. Lowen Stevens goes through as well, going through into Virage de la Tour, but then Jack Yang comes back at him again. This is fantastic stuff through Virage du Pont, and then on to the front straightaway, racing away. And of course this battle between Jack Yang and Lowen Stevens for 3rd position has allowed, for 4th position, excuse me, has allowed Erlen Juan Olsen to escape in 3rd, and Juan Olsen will be watching in the mirror saying, yes guys, you just carry on doing that and I'll just scamper off and get ready to spray the champagne on the podium in 10 minutes time.
Lowen Stevens impressed us earlier on in the race with a very brave move around the outside of Erlen Olsen, and he's just done a similar sort of move on Jack Yang into turn 1. So he's not scared on the brakes, is he? Loves carrying a little bit of speed into 1. A really impressive move there. Let's have another look at firstly the move here from Olsen to get down the inside of Jack Yang, and then watch in the background Lowen Stevens get to the outside, and then not be able to quite hold the move into this section here. Here he does it, down the inside there. That puts him on the outside into the final corner, and then eventually gets the cut back and runs all the way down to turn 1 with a bit of momentum, gets himself into a good position to do what he likes doing best, which is to be brave, basically.
Yeah, great moves, yeah, and just the opportunity opened up and he did not need ask twice. So can Lowen Stevens in that yellow and black number 64 car chase down Erlen Juan Olsen? Because Juan Olsen has got a little bit of a breakaway in the Fangio category. Amir Fazulin moved into the lead through the pit stop cycle, but John McLeod is trying everything he's got underneath him to try and run down the gap. The gap is only 1.5 seconds as Jack Yang goes wide again, so just seems to have got out of his rhythm a little bit as the driver of the number 21 machine. It's funny, just one little move happens and the next couple of laps can often be scrappy, and that's unfortunately what's happened to Jack Yang. He's just got to try and steady the ship a little bit. He's got a good gap back to Amir Fazulin, 4.3 seconds back to the 6th place driver. So yeah, settle down and get it to the finish. But for Marcus Littlewood, it's been a bit of a masterclass, really. Really impressive stuff. He's still putting in personal best sector, showing just how much better the car gets as the fuel load goes down, and how durable the tyre is as well to be able to give that performance. And of course the fitness of the driver too. Marcus Littlewood, the mental concentration to just keep ticking out those laps, particularly when you've got a good lead as well, trying to keep that concentration up. Really impressive stuff from Marcus Littlewood.
Yeah, his last lap was a 2:08.875, which is only just under a tenth slower than his best. We're just seeing that car 54, which is Luke Kendall, has got a stop and go penalty. A 1 second stop and go penalty. That, I would assume, is for either speeding in the pits or possibly a short pit stop. That could possibly be the two things if he didn't quite stay in the pits for the maximum amount of time, or from the in to the out pit point. So the only other possible thing it could be is track limits, but I haven't seen any warnings for track limits. So no, I would suggest that's some kind of a pit stop infringement.
That's really frustrating, because that's a whole load of points just flushed away, unfortunately, and that will mean that Lowen Stevens will go up onto the podium alongside Erlen Juan Olsen, What a shame for Luke Kendall. So he'll get a pit board or need a radio message to tell him to come into the pit, stop and go. That will lose a whole chunk of positions there for Luke Kendall. Has he got the, looks like he has got the message on board. Coming around through the Cour du Galabat, the number 54. Actually, no, I don't think he has quite got it yet. Might need to keep an eye on the pit board coming into the final corner now to Virage du Pont. Team will give him a message to say you need to come in, stop and go. Penalty with under 7 minutes to go in the race. That's such a shame because Kendall has driven very, very well, and pace-wise he's really only ever so slightly ahead, ever so slightly behind Marcus Littlewood. You're talking a couple of hundredths a lap, but over the course of the race that's added up to the gap. But he's really, really close. But wow, what a pity for the young American driver.
Yeah, it's just it's when, you know, in a race that, although 40 minutes seems like a long time, you know, when you get, if you do get a stop and go, I mean, a penalty being added on at the moment, if he got, say, a 5 or 10 second penalty, wouldn't make any difference to his position, because he's 17 seconds ahead of Erlen Olsen. But obviously a stop and go is going to really hamper him massively. So that's, as you said, a real shame. Fangio Cup, though, this is our leader in that, the 15 car of Amir Fayzulin, doing a great job there, just ahead of John McLeod, who's second in the Fangio Club, and then third in that category is Stromstead in the 38 car, who was obviously Morten Stromstead, that is, who was sharing with Sebastian Schau, or is sharing with Sebastian Schau. Schau was in the car earlier.
We thought that there might have been a little bit of lap traffic to deal with for our race leader, the number 3, Marcus Littlewood. There was for him, but been able to negotiate that all fairly safely and got a good gap ahead of him now to enjoy these last couple of laps. Coming up into the last part of the lap now, our race leader, so will be, I was going to say, 3 laps to go for Marcus Littlewood. It's been a perfect weekend on pole for both races within the 2 qualifying sessions, and of course leading away in this one. Battle going on though between Ross Board and the 55 of Diego Nambra in the team race streaming, the bright red machine. So Diego right in underneath the rear wing of Ross Board in that black and green machine.
He's had a busy old time of it, Ross, hasn't he, this weekend? Had a bit of a spin early on in the race. I think he had a couple of dramas in qualifying as well yesterday. So, yeah, hopefully he'll have a nice smooth finish to this one with pressure from Nambra just behind. But just one of the things I was just noticing is just looking back at the point situation, as you quite rightly mentioned, obviously Marcus is going to extend his championship lead, assuming he stays where he is. But it looks like Erlen Olsen could potentially move up into second in points if he stays where he is, because obviously looks like once Luke takes his penalty, he's going to finish second, which will give him a nice chunk of points. He currently sits 23 points behind Sebastian Schau and Morten Stromstead, and they're obviously in 10th at the moment.
Yeah, so that's not going to be as good on the haul of points. And of course we go back racing again tomorrow with the Radical Cup Europe, a little amuse-bouche for the finale of the Michelin 12 Hours of Paul Ricard. That kicks off at 11:45 local time in just over an hour, our feature event. Move though coming in from the 55 of Diego Nambra into Signé, and he's going to get the job done, is he? Yes, moves past Ross Board there. Good move from the race streaming machine, the red machine with the Danish flags on the wing end plate. I do like that here in this category, with the driver's nationality on the wing end plate. That's very commentator friendly.
That's fair. That reminds me a bit of Porsche Super Cup. They do that on the B pillar, don't they?
That's true.
The driver flag or the national flag on there. We had a little bit of fun actually with we mentioned Ryan Diel earlier, and if you notice, as a proud Scotsman yourself, he displays the Saltire next to his name on the car, and 2 of his teammates are Englishmen, and with the World Cup coming up, which is something he's very passionate to Ryan, he's actually going to go and see Scotland in Miami. we've been winding them up and saying that we're going to change the flag, the Union flags that are next to the other two drivers, to England flags, whilst the World Cup's on, just to give a little bit of a gentle ribbing. So.
Oh my! Well, Brian actually has raced for a football club before. He raced for Rangers in the Super League formula.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, many moons ago. Just over 2 minutes to go then, and Lohan Stevens is putting the heat on. Erlen Juan Olsen here, trying to take away what will become second position. Into the pits comes Luke Kendall then to serve that stop-and-go penalty.
Yeah, a real shame for Luke, but it looks like, who's that also in? Is that Ross Board? Yeah, Ross Board's in the pits as well, so I'm not quite sure. Didn't see... hang on, car 4 stop-go penalty as well. So that is Andrew Lowe. So Andrew Lowe's got a stop-go as well. Again, one could only assume without more information, he's got a 2-second stop-and-go. So one would assume, therefore, if it's a 1 second for Luke Kendall, and a 2 seconds for Andrew Lowe, that may be for a slightly more of a transgression in terms of a pit stop, either higher speed or more of a short stop, as it were.
Could be, yeah. So it looks like Luke Kendall's jumped out in 7th position. So after that one, that's a bit of a pity there for him. A lot of points dropped away. Meanwhile, Olsen is under pressure now from the 64 of Lohan Stevens. Very close between them now. They have been together through a majority of the race, and Lohan Stevens is right there in the draft now of Erlen Juan Olsen. Through Signé they go. It looks like it will be last lap fairly soon. I would think our race leader Marcus Littlewood quite a bit further up the road. He's just rode over the line. 40 seconds to go, so we likely will be on to our last lap now for this first race of the Radical Cup Europe. Oh, a little bit of a twitch though for Erlen Juan Olsen, and he's under pressure now from the yellow and black machine, the 64 of Lohan Stevens. Through Garlabin they go towards Virage de la Tour, and a little bit of a twitch and a wiggle from Erlen Juan Olsen. He's trying to go defensive there through Virage Dupont, and that will allow Stevens to get the power down that little bit earlier. They're really tight there as they come underneath our position here at Paul Ricard. Underneath, past the start-finish line they go onto the last lap, and Erlen Juan Olsen is under a lot of pressure here from Lohan Stevens.
Well, that was a bit 2 moves in the braking zone, I think, from Olsen there. That was would perhaps be looked at afterwards, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see, just judging on the last couple of times we've seen Lohan Stevens in battle, is that he's very good on the brakes, very brave. A move around the outside is if I was a betting man, that would be my bet. At some point they're going to get into a position where Stevens can have a little run around the outside and see if he can get it done. He's also racing in the Radical UK Cup as we ride on board. This is just the best view, isn't it, from our drone shot? What a great shot, love it.
Wonderful, yeah, wonderful stuff. Yeah, Lohan Stevens is right in the draft, coming down towards the north chicane on the Mistral Straight. He's underneath the rear wing of the 911 machine of Erlen Juan Olsen. They brake. Juan Olsen tries to go defensive then on the brakes when the 64 Lohan Stevens a little bit later. Oh, nearly that was close. The back as they go through the north chicane, then right underneath the diffuser, not just the rear wing. He's almost pushing Erlen Juan Olsen along, and he goes right to the out, almost off the track, heading towards Signé now. The 64 of Lohan Stevens up the inside, and Juan Olsen, they nearly touch as they go into Signé. Big commitment through there. Who's going to come out the other side? It's Stevens. So Lohan Stevens moves up then into second position, but your race winner Marcus Littlewood dominates here at Paul Ricard. He wins by a postcode. Fantastic stuff from the RSR driver, but can Lohan Stevens hang on to that second position, because he's worked hard for it, and looks like he is as they come round through Garlabin. Just a couple of corners to go, but there's a little bit of lap traffic to negotiate, but it seems like Erlen Juan Olsen's challenge is over. Yes, it is. Runs a little bit wide there going through the penultimate corner, so it's going to be Lohan Stevens at the last moment then picks up second position. It will be a podium for Erlen Juan Olsen, but not the step he thought he was going to get 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, great little scrap there, and thoroughly well deserved by Lohan Stevens. He's been other than obviously Marcus Littlewood, one of the drivers of the race for me, really has got stuck in and some great moves. So really, really impressive stuff and thoroughly well deserved. But still, I think Olsen will potentially have to do, I'm not very good at maths, so I can't work it out off the top of my head, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's moved him up into second place in the championship.
Yeah, a good bag of points, that's for sure. 50 minutes of hard racing there for these Radical Cup machines. In the Fangio category, it was Amir Faizulin who took the win by 2.2 seconds from John McLeod. But for John, with Paul Denning not here, that will give him the championship lead in that Fangio category.
Yeah, great that they have different categories for different drivers' stages. I mean, obviously, realistically, the guys that are and girls that are in that category, over 50s, they're there because they love their racing. They're racing for fun. It's not really a career move. But some of the younger drivers, the Littlewoods and obviously Luke Kendall, those sort of drivers, clearly that is something that they're using as a springboard to potentially move into other forms of motorsport. Maybe we'll see them in the Michelin 24H series. That would be a lovely stepping stone, wouldn't it? I'm sure there's plenty of teams that are in the paddock here that will be keeping an eye on what's been happening in this championship. And certainly, if I was a team manager looking at a young driver, Marcus Littlewood wouldn't be a bad place to start looking, would it?
Definitely. Yeah, proof that he's got the temperament for it to be able to manage a gap over a long race. You know, it's in pretty much a full prototype stint. In fact, just slightly longer than what an LMP2 car could do. They normally do about 40 minutes. So shows that he can do that job, no problem at all. Into the pits he comes then, and we'll have the reception from the RSR team as your race one winner here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Pulls up, that must be the best view in the world. Not David Vink from Creventic, although he's very nice at the P1 board.
It's the P1 board, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It always reminds me of that famous, I think it was Canada a few years ago when Vettel moved the one board in front of his car because Lewis had got him at the end of the race. But yeah, great job by Marcus. It was second win of the season for him. Won the opening round in Mugello, and then I think was really unlucky at Spa. Was the real pace setter as he has been everywhere this year. But safety cars and things and the pit stop penalty sort of scuppered his chance of getting another win there. But as with all championships, he knows how to win championships. He's won 2 in Radicals already, so he knows how to go about the business of trying to get that done by being super consistent. But there isn't a better way of trying to win a championship than by doing what this young man has done today, which is by dominating the race. And great performances by both Lowen Stevens and Erlen Olsen. Be interested to see if that's a warm handshake or a cold glare between those two afterwards. Whether they thought that was great fun or whether they thought that was a bit pushy.
I think it depends who you ask. Yeah, it definitely
Exactly.
depends who you ask. Well, Marcus Littlewood doesn't even look like he's broken a sweat, and he's going to have a chat with Carlo Velti.
Marcus, they just said you look like you didn't even break a sweat, but I see a little bit of redness in your face. Whatever you're having for breakfast, can you share your meal plan with me? Because you are rapidly fast. Well done. How are you feeling?
Thank you. Yeah, breakfast was sausage, bacon, egg, and a Red Bull. So if you want to copy that, then I don't recommend it. But no, yeah, it was a really good race. I'm super proud of what we've all achieved. It was really difficult because as soon as you have one slide, the tyres go, basically. So, yeah, just trying to manage that.
Did you feel a little bit alone out there? You were just doing this whole thing by yourself.
Not really, because Luke actually started coming back at me on the first run. So I knew he had the success penalty, but I knew definitely I couldn't let him get near me at the start. Otherwise, that puts a bit more pressure on. But yeah, it was a good race.
How does it feel to have more than one win now in the pocket?
Yeah, really satisfying. It shows that we can do it not only at Mugello, and we can do it here as well, and hopefully we can carry it on.
Fantastic. Enjoy that win.
Thank you very much.
And I will continue and try to get P2. Where did the man go? Lowen, hold on. I'm going to come to that side of you. Man, oh man, did you just figure let's wait until the very last second and make that move up to P2?
Yeah, there's no point making it easy, you know, make a race out of it. No, I got caught behind a back marker a couple of laps before the end, so it would have been a lot easier, but no, we got there in the end.
You truly did. How did it feel up until there? There was a lot of fighting going on between, let's say, you and the now P3 and P4. There was a lot of good racing.
Yeah, definitely. They made me work for it. I'll give them that. Yeah, just got better exits out of corners and made the most of it, really. But yeah, not an easy race.
How hard was it to manage tires in this race?
It wasn't the worst. Near the end, the front left is cooked, but no, definitely not too bad. It was okay.
You gave us a good show. Thank you very much. Enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
All right, and if I still have some time, I will try and get our P3 as well. Ellen, there you are. There you are. You gave us fantastic racing. Thank you so much for that. How does it feel to be on P3?
It's good. I actually thought you were fighting for a P3, so on the podium, not the P2. So I think it was good. Fantastic racing, clean racing, straight to the end, and that's what racing should be like, I think.
I think so too, and I think that's the cool thing about Radical, isn't it? You guys are in the same cars, basically, so it's really all about the racing. Can you take us a little bit into your head when you are in these battles on the track?
Yeah, it's crazy when they came out of the corners. You see the mistakes you made, you see the cars gaining and pulling away. So it's amazing. Such similar race cars and such fast cars, even though larger track like Ricard and Spa. So I think no other race car to that price could handle up.
Fantastic. You need to go up to the podium, and we will go to the highlights, I believe.
Thank you, Carla. Catching up with our podium. And Erlen Juan Olsen. Brilliant stuff from the Radical Cup Europe crew, with Marcus Littlewood taking that pole position, leading into turn one, and never bettered. An amazing drive from him. A few getting caught out in the melee of the pack there, but no harm, no foul. With a little bit of tyre rubbing going on for a few of the cars as well. A few thrills and spills, but brilliant racing as well. Pit stops, of course, a part of Radical Cup Europe. 1 or 2 picking up penalties. Most notably, of course, Luke Kendall in second position. Lost that position with that penalty. What a pity that was. But really, the battle of the race certainly was Espen Juan Olsen and Loan Stevens playing for keeps right to the end. But no one could lay a glove on Marcus Littlewood. What a performance from him. Confirming the results then, Marcus Littlewood takes another maximum score for his championship tally by 40 seconds. What a performance from him. Loan Stevens in second, ahead of the Radical Norway star Erlen Juan Olsen in third. Jack Yang came home in fourth place, ahead of the Fangio class winner, an overall top 5 for Amir Faizulan, just ahead of John McLeod. Andrew Lowe was 7th, with Luke Kendall with that stop-go penalty dropping him down to 8th. A story of what could have been for him. Brian Huang was 9th, and Morten Stromsted rounds out the top 10. And closing off our last few runners then, the sole SR10 and the fastest lap of the race, Philip Svensson flying in that second stint in that car, ahead of Jahid Fazal Karim, Diego Dambra, Eddie Van Dam, Ross Board and Valerie Bachmann rounding out our 16 cars here in this Radical Cup Europe first race. And we have one more to go. Tomorrow we'll have all of the action for you, with myself, Peter Mackay and Simon Hill, with Peter Snowden and Carla Velti down in the pit lane as well. Not long until the Michelin 12 Hours of Paul Ricard gets going, just under 50 minutes until the green flag there. The car's getting ready to head to the grid. In fact, they already are making their way to the grid, so we will have coverage of that. The drivers making their way up to the podium, where they'll be greeted by Peter Snowden and ready to spray a little bit of the bubbly after a hard race, I would think. 50 minutes here. Luckily not as hot as we had when we came here last year, Simon. 50, well, what were we, late July, so we're approaching 40 degrees Celsius. Much kinder temperatures at this time of year.
Yeah, I drove down here last year because there was an air traffic control strike, so my flight was cancelled. And I remember stopping at when I was about an hour away from here and getting out of the car, and it literally was meltingly hot. It was, you know, when you go somewhere and it's just unpleasant. That's how hot it was. So the drivers really were. I remember seeing some of the drivers during the 24H race, and I was sort of bopping down to see what was going on, and they were absolutely purple in the face. It was such a lot of physical effort on a day like today, but at least they've got a bit of a breeze in these cars. A nice open top sports car, which we like.
Yeah, definitely. But it's I remember speaking to Harley Haywood, who won Le Mans 3 times, Daytona 5 times, and he said, I just loved open cars. The 936 Porsche, that was his favourite car, because purely for that reason, just getting that airflow in the cockpit. He just absolutely loved that. But of course, we haven't had open top prototypes in sports car racing for nearly 10 years now. It's amazing how things do move on.
It's interesting how the sort of design logic goes, because if you remember when Audi first came in the late 90s, they had both a closed and an open top car, and then obviously reverted to what was turned into one of the most successful cars of all time, the R8, as an open top car. So let's have a look down and join our friend Peter Snowden down at the podium.
Thank you, gentlemen. So our first Radical Europe Cup race podium of the weekend, and we're going to have obviously our order, 3-2-1, typical order, and we're going to have Kevin Gaskell, who is the chairman of Radical Motorsport, and Dan Redpath of the CCO, Chief Commercial Officer of Radical, are going to be presenting trophies. They're looking here, ready, primed and pumped and ready to go. So we're going to start, without further ado, our third place overall, Erland Jan Olsen. Second place is Lowen Stevens. And our overall winner is Marcus Littlewood. We'll let the trophies be presented by our wonderful gentleman from Radical to make the whole thing happen. And we're going to stand by for the national anthem of the winning team, RSR. Time, gentlemen, to spray the champagne if you so wish. Or they're going to drink it. There's a debate now whether they're going to spray it or drink it.
I always vote for spray it and then drink whatever's left after spraying it, I think, as well. Brilliant job from Marcus Littlewood. The trophy held aloft. There'll be a chance to add to that haul of silverware tomorrow before the part 2 of the Michelin 12 Hours of Paul Ricard, which is about to get going, of course, split into 2 parts, 6 hours each, and we'll be back on air very, very soon at around 1/4 the hour in about 15 minutes time for the build-up to the Michelin 12 Hours of Paul Ricard. Join us then. Radicals are back tomorrow, 9 o'clock local time. Bye for now, and we'll see you in just a moment.
10 podium as well, which of course is Philip Svensson, who's driving the car second. Well done, gentlemen. And Peter Gustafsson. Dan and Kevin of Radical, presenting the trophies to our 2 drivers of the SR10 category from the Vortex Performance team. Well done, gentlemen. And our final Radical podium of today is, of course, the Fanjo class. So in 3rd position, Andrew Lowe. He's busy drinking water. He's here. He's coming up the steps. And in 2nd place, John McLeod. I forgot to say Andrew of 360 competition and John of RSR, of course. And our winner on the top step of the podium for driving for North Motorsport is Amir Fazoulan. A little bit more silver and gold wear from Radical. Kevin and Dan doing a great job there for us. Thank you very much, gentlemen, everybody involved, all our podium, and of course Dan and Kevin from Radical for joining us up here in the lovely sunshine in the south of France. What more could you want? It's just perfect, isn't it? Thank you, gentlemen.